The first clue didn't come from a gunshot, it came from a message on Discord. In February 2025, a teenager from Mooresville, Indiana, typed words that would stop an unthinkable tragedy before it began. The user's name was Trinity J. Shockley, once a quiet student at Mooresville High School. Online, however, she called herself Dex, and in the shadows of the internet, her plans were beginning to take shape. If stories like this fascinate you, hit subscribe, because this one only gets darker. It started with a tip. Someone scrolling through a Discord chat noticed something terrifying: messages that spoke of a Valentine's Day massacre, a reference that mirrored the Parkland shooting 7 years earlier. The language wasn't vague. It was deliberate. It was a plan. When federal agents traced the digital trail back to Morgan County, they found a teenager living with a secret fascination for mass shooters. Names like Nicholas Cruz and Dylan Roof written on her walls, online folders labeled research. In her private messages, she bragged about how long she'd been preparing. Parkland Part 2. "I've been planning this for a year." By the time investigators arrived at her door, Trinity was 18. What they found inside her home turned a rumor into evidence: tactical gear, a bulletproof vest, and messages outlining her goal to acquire an AR-15 style rifle. It wasn't a game or an edgy post. It was conspiracy, premeditated and organized. Mooresville, a peaceful suburb south of Indianapolis, wasn't used to national attention. Parents recognized her face from yearbooks. Teachers remembered her as withdrawn, sometimes angry, but no one imagined she'd be accused of plotting mass murder. For a town that still trusted its schools as safe havens, the discovery felt like a rupture in reality. Authorities credited the FBI's Say Something tip line for preventing another heartbreak. Without it, February 14th could have been a date carved into local history for all the wrong reasons. As news spread, the community searched for an explanation. Court filings painted a portrait of obsession and isolation. Trinity's digital footprint revealed months of planning, Google searches, private chats, screenshots of weapons. Investigators said the evidence read like a countdown to catastrophe. Yet beneath the headlines lay a deeper question: how does a teenager in small-town Indiana become captivated by violence she's never witnessed? In interviews, classmates spoke of her desire to be seen, how she oscillated between loneliness and anger. Prosecutors argued it wasn't just attention-seeking, it was a deliberate conspiracy to commit murder. Her defense team pointed toward mental health struggles and family conflict, claiming her father resisted attempts to get her psychiatric help. By the time she stood before a judge in October 2025, she didn't deny what she'd written or planned. She admitted guilt, pleading to one count of conspiracy to commit murder, a level 2 felony in Indiana law. The rest of the charges, terrorism, intimidation, were dismissed under the plea agreement. But inside the courtroom, there was still a question that haunted everyone: would she have gone through with it if no one had spoken up? As the judge set her sentencing date for November 24, 2025, the town of Mooresville exhaled, relieved, yet uneasy. The halls of the high school were quiet again, but the fear hadn't left. Because behind every prevented tragedy is a single truth no one likes to admit: someone was ready to make it real. In the days after her arrest, the silence around Trinity Shockley's name grew louder than the headlines themselves. Mooresville wanted answers. But what they found wasn't a monster, it was a pattern. 18 years old. Isolated. Searching for belonging in the corners of the internet that reward anger more than understanding. Investigators discovered that Trinity had spent months immersed in online forums dedicated to school shooters. Her phone log showed late-night searches for the Parkland case, Columbine documentaries, even psychological profiles of past gunmen. She wasn't celebrating the violence, she was studying it. Like an obsession wearing the mask of purpose. Prosecutors would later say she had built a digital shrine, folders filled with mugshots, articles, and crime scene photos. To her, these figures weren't strangers. They were blueprints. A way to be remembered. Her Discord messages revealed a split identity: Jamie, the name she used with friends, and Dex, the one she used online. Under Dex, the tone changed. She was confident, strategic, unfiltered. One message read, "No one listens until someone does something huge." It wasn't the voice of a villain, it was the voice of someone drowning in invisibility. At home, things were complicated. Court records mention tension with her father, who allegedly dismissed her pleas for mental health treatment. In one statement, a family acquaintance recalled that Trinity wanted help but didn't know how to ask for it. It was the kind of line that turns a news story into a human one. By February 2025, her online world had replaced her real one. Every click, every chat, was part of a loop feeding her frustration. Psychologists later called it eco-radicalization, when digital isolation fuels distorted validation. She wasn't part of a terrorist group or gang. She was part of an algorithm. When the FBI interviewed her after the arrest, agents described her demeanor as calm, almost detached. One report noted that she spoke about the plan as if it were theoretical, insisting it was just an idea that never went beyond words. But investigators disagreed. Her notebook held sketches of floor plans. Her browser history showed ammunition searches. Intent was written in data, not emotion. During the plea hearings, prosecutors emphasized how close the plan came to reality. The only thing missing was the weapon, something she had already been researching how to purchase privately. The difference between tragedy and prevention, they said, was a single anonymous message to the tip line. Outside the courthouse, Mooresville residents gathered in disbelief. Some blamed the internet. Others blamed the system that let a teenager slip through every crack. One former classmate said, "We all saw she was struggling. We just didn't think she meant it." In the weeks that followed, national news outlets began to cover the story, not as another near-miss headline, but as a reflection of America's growing crisis, the collision between youth mental health and online extremism. The prosecutor's office confirmed that Trinity faced up to 30 years in prison, though the plea could reduce it to around 12 and a half with additional probation. For many, that sentence was both a relief and a reminder the justice system had intervened, but the damage to trust and safety would take far longer to heal. In her final statement before sentencing, Trinity spoke quietly. Her words, barely audible, carried through the courtroom. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just wanted someone to notice." That line froze the room. It was no justification, just a reflection of the invisible crisis playing out across schools nationwide. And as Mooresville tried to move on, investigators reviewing the digital evidence found one final, unsettling clue, a file saved under a name no one could forget, Valentine's gift. In October 2025, the courtroom in Morgan County, Indiana, was silent as Trinity J. Shockley, 18 years old, entered her plea. The charge was one count of conspiracy to commit murder, a level 2 felony. The plea brought an end to months of investigation that began with a single warning, one that may have saved lives. The case started in February, when a tip through the FBI's Say Something system alerted authorities to alarming online messages. Those messages, traced to Shockley, referenced a planned Valentine's Day shooting at Mooresville High School. Investigators later recovered tactical gear, a bulletproof vest, and messages showing her intent to obtain an AR-15-style rifle. Court documents revealed that Shockley had spent significant time online researching mass shootings and expressing fascination with previous perpetrators. Prosecutors said her digital footprint made the threat credible and specific. According to local reports, the plea agreement filed on October 24, 2025, resulted in prosecutors dropping other charges, including intimidation and terrorism. Under Indiana law, a level 2 felony carries a potential sentence of 10 to 30 years in prison. Sentencing has been scheduled for November 24, 2025, where the judge will decide the final outcome. Officials have repeatedly credited the anonymous tip with preventing a tragedy. The FBI and Morgan County Sheriff's Office said that early intervention stopped a potential mass casualty event before it could begin. For Mooresville, a quiet community south of Indianapolis, the news came as both relief and reckoning. At Mooresville High School, administrators used the case as a reminder for students to take threats seriously and report concerns. "If you see something, say something," one counselor told local media. That's what made the difference here. As of now, Shockley remains in custody awaiting sentencing. Prosecutors have not disclosed the final sentencing recommendation, but legal analysts say it will likely reflect the seriousness of the plan and the early intervention that prevented it. The case has since been cited in national discussions on youth mental health, online radicalization, and the growing importance of school safety reporting systems. It stands as a real-world example of how a single message, one alert voice, can prevent a headline that no community should ever face. For Mooresville, that anonymous call wasn't just an act of courage. It was the difference between warning and prevention. Subscribe for more true crime stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.